One of NBA Youngboy's former artists just watched his entire future disappear. Yungin is now facing what many are calling the end of his freedom after the killing of Jonah Lee, the same man he once publicly vowed to defend at all costs. So how did it all come to this? I've got the full story. Let's get into it. The arrest. 2 years of silence, then the hammer drops. Yungin, real name Cameron McClay, was arrested and charged in connection with the March 30, 2024, shooting death of 24-year-old Jonah C. Lee of Baton Rouge. And he didn't go in alone. Arrested alongside him was Deja McClay, a woman who shares his last name and who, according to reports circulating online, has been described as a sister or relative, a detail we'll come back to later in this video, because it has poured gasoline on an already raging fire of speculation. Now, before we go one step further, let's be precise about what actually happened on paper, because the internet, as it always does, has been running wild, and headlines screaming about a life sentence have been flying around timelines everywhere. Here are the facts as they currently stand. Yungin has been charged with principal to second-degree murder, a charge that in plain English means he is accused of participating in or helping to facilitate the events that led to the killing. It is a charge that carries the weight of a potential lifetime behind bars in Louisiana, which is exactly why so many are already calling this the end of his freedom. Let's rewind the tape to where this all began. On March 30, 2024, Jonah C. Lee, sometimes referred to as Jonah Christian Lee, was found shot multiple times in the 300 block of Cheryl Street near Ville Platte in Evangeline Parish, Louisiana. He would later die from his injuries. 24 years old, a young man from Baton Rouge found roughly an hour away from home. His life ended on a street most people outside the parish had never heard of. His passing was marked by an obituary, and in the days that followed, the corners of the internet connected to the Baton Rouge rap scene lit up with grief because Jonah wasn't a stranger to that world. He was, by many accounts, part of it. And that's what makes this story so heavy. Because when the arrests finally came, the investigation by the Evangeline Parish Sheriff's Office had taken over 2 years, with the arrests announced around July 6, 2026. 2 years. 700 and some days of detectives quietly working a case, while the man they would eventually charge kept living his life in public, dropping music, doing interviews, beefing on the internet, getting arrested for other things entirely, and building a career that had once been blessed by NBA Youngboy himself. And think about what 2 years of silence actually means in a case like this. It means that while headlines came and went, while other stories dominated the feeds, somewhere in Evangeline Parish there were investigators quietly pulling threads, following leads, and building something. It means that for the family of Jonah Lee, every single day was another day of waiting for a knock on the door, a phone call, a name. And it means that the two people who were eventually arrested spent those same 700 days not knowing, or perhaps knowing all too well, that a clock was ticking somewhere they couldn't see it. That is the quiet, patient machinery of a rural Louisiana homicide investigation. Slow, unglamorous, and in this case, ultimately unrelenting. Local outlets reported that 2 people had been arrested more than 2 years after a Baton Rouge man was killed near Ville Platte, and the story spread rapidly across Facebook and every other platform where Louisiana street rap is discussed. As for Yungin himself, his bond was set at $150,000, and he is reportedly being held in custody at the Ville Platte jail. And here's the part that should make everyone watching sit up a little straighter. Authorities have made it clear that the case remains ongoing, with possible additional arrests still to come. Meaning this story may not be finished, not by a long shot. And consider what that phrase, possible additional arrests, actually implies. It means investigators believe, or at least have not ruled out, that more people were involved in whatever happened on Cheryl Street that night. It means that somewhere out there right now, there may be people watching this exact story unfold with a knot in their stomach, wondering whether their name is written in a case file in Evangeline Parish. And it means that everything you're about to hear in this video, every rumor, every theory, every reaction, is being discussed against the backdrop of an investigation that the authorities themselves say is not finished. The reaction online was instantaneous and volcanic. Social media, especially X and Instagram, exploded with the news, with pages like Traps N Trunks and Daily Youngboy sharing mugshots and details within hours. Reaction posts flooded Instagram, and the responses ran the entire emotional spectrum. Shock from fans calling it another one lost to the streets, speculation about motives, unverified claims that the victim was a friend, and heated debates about the lifestyle surrounding Youngboy's circle. Some pointed out the tragic irony that Yungin had survived prior violence and prior legal run-ins, only to end up here in what many framed as part of a tragic repeating cycle. Because here's the thing you have to understand about this case. This isn't happening in a vacuum. This fits a broader, well-documented pattern in the Baton Rouge rap scene, where artists from street-influenced backgrounds frequently face serious legal troubles tied to alleged violence. Troubles that are then amplified 100-fold by social media and by the drill and trap culture that surrounds the music. Comparable cases involving other local figures with gang affiliations, with ongoing feuds, with bodies of work that blur the line between art and confession, have played out in eerily similar fashion. So how did a kid who was collaborating with NBA Youngboy as a teenager, a kid with a real shot, real buzz, and a real machine behind him, end up sitting in a parish jail cell facing the most serious charge the state of Louisiana can level at a man? To understand that, you have to go back to the beginning, back to a 15-year-old from Baton Rouge who caught the attention of a superstar. The rise, never broke again, the Youngboy machine, and the cracks in the foundation. To understand how we got here, you need to understand who Cameron McClay actually is, because before the mugshot, before the charge, before the hashtag, there was a teenager with a melodic flow and a cosign that most young rappers would trade everything for. P. Yungin was born Cameron McClay on September 24, 2004. He's a Baton Rouge, Louisiana-affiliated rapper, though some bios note South Florida ties, who rose to prominence in the early 2020s as part of NBA Youngboy's Never Broke. Again, collective and label ecosystem, the machine also known as NBA or 4KT. And when we say he was young when it started, we mean it literally. Youngboy mentored and signed him when P. Yungin was still a teenager, somewhere around 15 to 17 years old. Think about that. At an age when most kids are worried about driver's licenses and homework, Cameron McClay was being groomed for stardom by one of the most streamed artists on the planet. And you have to understand what a Youngboy cosign meant in Baton Rouge at that moment in time. This wasn't just a record deal. This was validation from the biggest thing the city had produced in a generation, a stamp of approval that instantly separated you from the thousands of other kids uploading songs and praying for a break. For a teenager from that environment, it was the golden ticket: money, attention, studio access, and an audience of millions handed to you before you were old enough to vote. But that same golden ticket came with everything else attached to it: the scrutiny, the enemies, the expectations, and the gravitational pull of a scene where the line between the music and the streets has never been anything close to clean. Pyongyang got all of it, the blessing and the curse, delivered in the same package. And the results came fast. He gained real visibility through collaborations with Youngboy, including the 2020 track I'm On, which helped launch his profile, and later singles like 2022's Pull Up Actin' from the Never Broke Again projects. He appeared on the label's compilations including Green Flag Activity and Never Broke Again, the compilation placements that put his voice directly in front of millions of Youngboy's famously obsessive fans. His solo catalog grew steadily. Projects like Demons Everywhere I Go in 2020, Cam in 2022, Life at 17, Doy, and even more recent 2025 and 2026 output like Cam Rain. His style, melodic trap fused with gritty street narratives and the high-energy flows that define the Baton Rouge sound, made him a natural fit for the NBA ecosystem, and the early chemistry with Youngboy boosted his visibility significantly. But every story like this one has a turning point, a moment where the foundation starts to crack. And for P. Yungin, there were public signs of tension with the label. He reportedly sought his release from Never Broke Again around 2025, and rumors of a falling out or full-blown beef began to swirl, including talk that he was hating on others in the camp, like fellow artist Lil Dump. The kid who came up under Youngboy's wing was suddenly trying to fly out of the nest, and in this world, those departures are rarely clean, and the legal troubles, they were stacking up long before this murder charge. P. Yungin had multiple arrests in 2026 alone, including marijuana and firearm charges in Texas earlier that year, from which he was released on bond. Stranger still, in late 2024, rumors of his death, or of him faking his death, circulated widely online, though they were never confirmed as factual. Sit with that for a second. The rumor mill around this man was so intense that the internet couldn't even agree on whether he was alive. Death rumors are a strange and morbid milestone in this corner of the rap world. They tend to attach themselves to artists whose lives are perceived as being lived close to the edge, artists whose music and movements make the worst-case scenario feel plausible to their audience. The fact that thousands of people could believe, even briefly, that P. Yungin was gone, or stranger still, that he had staged his own disappearance, tells you everything about how the public had come to see his situation. And the timing is haunting in hindsight. Those rumors swirled in late 2024, mere months after Jonah Lee was killed on Cheryl Street, while the investigation that would eventually come for him was already quietly underway. Now, none of this happens in isolation, because the man at the center of the Never Broke Again universe has lived his entire adult life under the same storm clouds. NBA Youngboy himself has a long, well-documented history of legal issues, attempted murder charges as a teenager, federal gun cases, house arrest, though he has had some resolutions, including a 2024 sentencing and later mentions of a pardon in some reports. If you want to see just how chaotic that world gets, look no further than the infamous hotel arrest footage that made the rounds courtesy of TMZ.
Need you to step outside. So right here. Okay, all right. get my baby.
I'm saying, what she doing?
She slapped somebody.
What starts as a hotel dispute spirals almost immediately, and as officers move in, the people around Youngboy insist that what's happening has less to do with the incident and everything to do with who he is.
Man, you know for a fact they ain't got her in no handcuffs. They doing that shit because who he is, man. Come on, man.
Even in the middle of being detained, you can hear him trying to negotiate, trying to keep the situation from boiling over.
You need to go.
Man, I promise I'm gonna cooperate with this.
Then you need to listen.
And then comes the moment that cuts deepest, because underneath the fame and the rap sheet, this is a father pleading about his child in the middle of an arrest.
You let the fucking people do that to your baby, bro.
What? Your baby is okay.
I want my baby now.
Man, you would let the people.
Why you man? My baby don't know that man. My baby don't, ain't no girl enough.
That's the world P. Yungin came up in. A world where the cameras never stop rolling, where the police are never far away, and where the scene itself constantly draws scrutiny for so-called murder music. The endless debate about whether the songs influence real violence or simply reflect it. P. Youngin's trajectory from teenage signee with viral collaborations to repeated legal entanglements highlights the near-impossible balancing act so many young Southern rappers face, chasing music success while still tethered to street ties. His output remained active into 2026, despite everything. But this charge could significantly impact or outright end his momentum, depending entirely on the legal outcome. But the charge is only half of this story. The other half is the question everyone is asking, the question that has turned comment sections into war zones. Who was Jonah Lee to P. Yungin? And what does the internet think really happened? That's part 3, and fair warning, this is where it gets murky. The rumors, backdoor allegations, old beefs, and a narrative flipped upside down. Here is where this case stops being a simple crime story and becomes something far more unsettling. Because according to huge swaths of the internet, Jonah B wasn't P. Youngin's enemy. He was his friend. Many commenters and older videos posted back in 2024, right after Jonah's death, portrayed Jonah B as a close friend or associate of P. Yungin. There were videos with titles along the lines of P. Yungin best friend Jonah B gets Cal-led, featuring reactions from figures like BBGD, who appeared genuinely emotional about the repeated losses in their circle. In 2024, Jonah was mourned as one of their own, which is exactly why, when the arrest news broke in July of 2026, the narrative flipped violently for many people, producing waves of "I knew it" posts from some and pure shock from others. And that flip gave birth to the single most dominant theory in this entire saga. The prevailing rumor is what the streets call a backdoor, a betrayal from within. The allegation, entirely unproven, is that P. Yungin and/or his associates were involved in some kind of incident, possibly illegal activity, in which Jonah was killed or left behind. Some claim P. Yungin switched up after a fallout. Comments like "backdoor Jonah" and "killed his homie" are everywhere. Speculation ties this alleged betrayal to P. Youngin's label drama with NBA Youngboy's camp and to internal beefs, like the one with Lil Dump, with some suggesting the killing stemmed from shifting alliances and that Jonah was either caught in the middle or became a casualty of P. Yungin trying to navigate those rivalries. But that's only theory number 1. A second recurring, though thinly sourced, claim in the comment sections is that Jonah B allegedly bullied P. Yungin when they were younger and that the incident was retaliation years in the making, payback as it's framed. Unresolved street tension finally boiling over. And yet others flip that story entirely, insisting the two were cool until external pressures, label issues, other feuds drove a wedge between them, even pointing to times the two allegedly pulled up together in the past looking for opponents, including in situations related to Lil Dump. Then there's the wider battlefield this all sits on. Jonah's death is frequently linked to the larger patterns of Baton Rouge violence, involving groups like 4KT and NBA, BBG, TBG, and others. P. Yungin had very public issues with Lil Dump, issues he later described as squashed, and he responded furiously to diss tracks, including calling out TBG Lil Ivy for disrespecting Jonah after his death. And that response, it's on camera. When Lil Ivy Jr. dissed Jonah, P. Yungin went online and made his position brutally clear. And remember, this is a man defending the memory of the very person he would later be charged in connection with killing.
I don't give a fuck who you is, who a nigga peep is. On key, you speak on Jonah, it's smoke. On all my kids, nigga.
Smoke on all my kids. That's how far he claimed he was willing to take it for Jonah's name. And he didn't stop there. He issued a direct challenge, daring anyone disrespecting Jonah to prove where they stood.
Hey, tell a nigga go shoot a video in that top right now. Go shoot a video, go shoot a video uptown right now.
And then he closed it out with the kind of dare that leaves no room for interpretation.
Show me you like that. Show me, bitch.
face. Watch that clip again, knowing what we know now. In 2024, that looked like loyalty, a man ready to go to war over a fallen friend. In 2026, with a principal to second-degree murder charge hanging over his head, the internet is re-watching that same footage and asking a very different question. And this is the phenomenon that makes this case so uniquely disturbing to follow. The archive doesn't change, but the audience does. Every emotional tribute, every furious defense of Jonah's name, every reaction video where grief poured out on camera, all of it still exists, frozen exactly as it was posted. But the meaning of every frame has been thrown into question by a single press release from a sheriff's office. Some viewers now see performance where they once saw pain. Others insist that the emotion was real, that the charge changes nothing until a court says otherwise, and that mourning a friend and being accused in his death are two facts that the justice system, not a comment section, will have to reconcile. Both camps are watching the same videos. They are seeing two completely different stories. The speculation doesn't end there. Some threads suggest the classic street tropes, that it was over a woman, over money, or illegal shit gone wrong. One comment thread suggested it was over a or possibly a robbery or a setup. And the arrest of Dijah McClay, reported as a sister or relative, has fueled talk of coordinated family action in the alleged incident. Others connect the case to P. Youngin's exit from Never Broke Again, to the Fredo Bang feuds, including claims involving P. Youngin's sister, and to the wider web of Louisiana rap rivalries. A few posts joke or speculate wildly, things like finally got what he wanted, or attempts to link this to other unsolved cases, but these have no grounding whatsoever. And plenty of reactions simply frame the whole thing as another one lost to the streets, or as karma for the lifestyle. Now, the caveats. And please, do not skip this part. Much of this chatter traces back to 2024, right after the shooting, when Jonah was being mourned as part of the circle, and the 2026 arrests flipped that narrative entirely. Street rap YouTube channels and Instagram accounts thrive on exactly this kind of content. Reaction videos, breakdowns, hot takes, but it is entertainment-driven and very often contradictory. No concrete evidence, no witness accounts, no texts, no videos has leaked publicly to support any of these stories in detail. And while P. Yungin, like many artists in the scene, has referenced street losses in his music, fans interpreting those shoutouts through the lens of this case is speculation, not proof. This is worth dwelling on because it's the part of the story that says the most about us, the audience. In the absence of facts, the internet doesn't wait. It manufactures. A 2-year information vacuum around a killing gets filled with whatever material is lying around. Old beefs, old friendships, old videos, half-remembered comments, and the borrowed plot lines of every similar case that came before it. The theories contradict each other constantly. He was Jonah's best friend. No, Jonah bullied him. It was a betrayal. No, it was a robbery. It was about the label. No, it was about a woman. And yet each version is delivered with total confidence by whoever is telling it. That's not investigation, that's storytelling. And it thrives precisely because the real story is locked inside a case file in Evangeline Parish. Because here's the truth, the official story remains remarkably sparse. A shooting in Evangeline Parish, 2 years of investigation, charges for principal liability. That's it. The public has filled in every other gap with known associations, past beefs, and patterns borrowed from similar cases. As the case moves through court, more factual details, if any, may emerge through hearings or media coverage. But the rumors will persist regardless. At the center of it all, though, is a fact that no theory can change. Jonah C. Lee was 24 years old when he died on Cheryl Street, and his family laid him to rest while the internet turned his death into content. This entire saga is a brutal illustration of how tightly intertwined music personas, social media, and real violence have become in certain southern rap scenes. A kid signed at 15, a friend buried at 24, and a courtroom in Evangeline Parish where sooner or later the facts, the real ones, will finally have their say. Court proceedings will determine the facts. Always cross-reference official sources, sheriff's office statements, court records, before believing what your timeline tells you. Because in this story, the loudest voices have been the least reliable ones. If you made it this far, drop your thoughts below. Do you believe the backdoor theory, or is the internet convicting a man before his trial even starts? Subscribe, because when the next hearing happens, we'll break it down right here. And that's a wrap. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out the others on your screen. Thanks for watching.